torn to pieces is the first step to making a difference. Do we pay attention to our neighbors we have who work 10 to 12-hour days, 7 days a week to provide for their family? If we don't have enough awareness. Do we notice that our teenagers are staying up till 2 and 3 o'clock in the morning to get the best possible grades so that they can get into the best possible schools and have all of the extracurriculars on their resumes and be getting ahead? If we don't see that, we're missing a huge point. If we don't realize that every time that we purchase something, every time that we go somewhere, every time that we enjoy a service, we are doing so, we're able to do so only because there's people working those days who allow us to be able to do it. If we don't notice that, our lives aren't ever going to change. We live in a world right now where it's get ahead, get the last little bit of what we want. And we're so confident in that, and we're so confident that we are the ones who deserve that last little morsel, that we worry about us, ourselves, never going hungry, and we don't worry about what to do for those who have less. We pay lip service to the problems that we have in our society. We talk about them, we brainstorm in groups, and we talk about what theoretically should be done for people who are in need. And then we go back to our regularly scheduled lives, and we go with the flow. I want to think about for a second what would have happened if the disciples had just gone with the flow in the storm. Like I said a few minutes ago, if you've ever been in a boat with rough waters, you know the current's going to take you where the current's going to take you. They could have been capsized. They could have smashed into rocks. Likely it wouldn't have been good. And what would have happened if David hadn't stepped forward, but if the army had just tried the plans, not that God thought was best, but the plans that they thought were best to go up against Goliath? I have an interesting picture in my head of how I think that would have gone. I consider a YouTube video that I watched in college where there's this little, I believe it was a cricket, who was dancing to disco music. And this little cricket is belting its heart out to a very well-known Gloria Gaynor song. So, well, we get 15 seconds into the video, and this little cricket is singing its heart out, and right as it gets to the point of, I will survive, the disco ball comes and smashes it on the head and kills it. And the video comes to an abrupt end. You know, the next time that somebody says to you, this is just the way we've always done it, this is the way it's always been, just go with the flow, don't rock the boat, I want us all to consider, before we do that, before we listen to that, who is the flow working for, and who is the flow working against? Now, we have a whole lot of people in our society, and Carla has mentioned some just today, who the usual flow of things is working against. There's the single parent who has to leave their child in daycare or with a care provider for so many hours so that they can work 3 jobs to keep the lights on, to keep food on the table, to keep clothes on everybody's back. There are people, as we've seen at IFC, who are filling up community kitchens day and night because it's the only way that they have to get a meal. We have people sleeping under carports and on park benches, living with only a backpack full of possessions, if they even have that, and oftentimes that's either destroyed or stolen. There are those who have fled lives in their country of origin, of abuse, of malnourishment, of neglect and fear. They hope to come to a country where there's going to be plenty, only to be taken advantage of and to be treated with less respect than animals. We can't forget the people on the street corner who are keeping their children fed and clothed at the expense of their own body, mind, heart, and dignity. Or the people who were in the wrong place at the wrong time, made an error in judgment, and are going to spend the rest of their lives paying for it. And of course, those who have spent half their lives, or who may spend the rest of their lives sitting in a prison cell, while others, many of us, walk free, regularly committing a far more heinous crime than they ever did. The crime of not recognizing the pain and suffering, the needs and the dignity of those around us. The crime of not rocking the boat, when rocking it is the only way some people will ever see the danger of the storm. he didn't care, or did he somehow not notice the storm? I don't know about the rest of you. I have a hard time believing that would be possible. Much more likely, Jesus had far more faith in the disciples than they had in themselves. Just like our little nephew falling asleep in the back of the car with this Uncle Micah's got it attitude. Jesus knew the disciples could handle themselves if they put forth the faith not just in him, but in themselves, that they could do it, that they could get through. Now we here, Good Shepherd, all of us Christians, we can change the flow of things if we have the faith in ourselves and the drive to stick to it when the rest of the world is just telling us, go with the flow. Society and the way that we run things, whether it be our work, whether it be just in our families, doesn't have to be a rat race to the top. Our gains coming as a result of other people's losses. It's easier and more comfortable just to go with the flow in the immediacy. Especially when injustice is a huge part of that flow, but we don't see how it affects us. It requires nothing from us beyond mindless following to just go with the flow. When we take that courageous step to rock the boat, though, we stand a better chance of others finally noticing the storm and working with us to make a change. We can together defeat the metaphorical giants in our society: oppression, racism, sexism, classism, ableism, homophobia, transphobia, and so much more, without the need of the fancy weaponry. Pulling society together is stronger than any weapon, and if we do, we will survive. No falling disco balls. Let's close in a word of prayer. Loving God, we just ask today that you be with us and you help us, Lord, to learn how to stand against those who are telling us to go with the flow when the flow is hurting other people. God, we ask that you help us to stand against injustice. We ask that you show us the times where maybe we can be at that boat's wheel and we can be helping to steer on our own. Help us to not just have faith in you, help us to have faith in ourselves. We ask these things in your name. Amen.
Amen.